We open on a battlefield, the Battle of Sekigahara. There's a survivor. This is our main character, Takezo Shinmen, or as he'll be known in 20 chapters, Miyamoto Musashi, and right now, he can't believe he got knocked out like a little bitch. We cut to another survivor, Matahachi, face down, crying about his mother, begging for forgiveness. A spear comes down right next to him. A survivor, the man with the spear says. Matahachi recognizes this person's behaving like a refugee hunter, someone who hunts down the survivors of war. I survived too, Takuzo says. He says Matahachi's name and he rolls over, realizing that it's his childhood best friend just messing with him. They get up and start walking, Takuzo supporting Matahachi's weight because he's wounded and also a pussy. This might seem harsh now, but just wait. Matahachi asks Takuzo to leave him behind since he's a liability, but Takuzo isn't having it. They've been walking for some time now and eating grass to subsist. Matahachi's taking a shit in the grass and remarks, "Is this all we amount to? We left our home village to make names for ourselves, kill a general or two, and now look at us." From behind he hears, "A survivor," and Matahachi's like, "I'm not gonna fall for that joke twice," but he turns around to find a guy about to lob his head off. He runs and calls out to Takuzo, "Refugee hunters, the real thing." He dodges and runs, but sustains a cut on his arm. Takuzo's already on it. He grabs this dude's sword and says, "If you're gonna try and kill me, I'm gonna kill you." The refugee hunter's thinking about how strong Takuzo is before he gets headbutted in the face. Takuzo grabs him by the head afterwards and puts his face into a tree trunk. Takuzo faces off with another refugee hunter and chases him down a hill toward his comrade who's trying to kill Matahachi. Takuzo sees this, picks up a fucking boulder, and hurls it down the hill, crushing one of the refugee hunter's skulls. He hurls himself down the hill directly afterwards, wielding a tree branch and breaks it over the top of the surviving one's head. That guy is still among the living, and Takuzo jams the broken tree branch into his throat, causing him to spurt blood. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our protagonist, a 17-year-old based on a real-life samurai who has so much black Air Force energy you can feel it in the air. The fact that he was a real person is part of the appeal of the story to me. It's a dramatization, sure, but Vagabond very roughly follows the real-world Miyamoto Musashi's life. The Battle of Sekigahara was a real battle that he was believed to have fought on the losing side of at a young age, and many of the characters we'll meet along the way are based on real people. The real-world Musashi fought 70 duels throughout his life, many of which went to the death, and that's not including his military service. They carry on walking and come across more bodies. Matahachi falls down, they sense somebody nearby, and they find a girl. The girl takes them back to their house and tends to their health. When they wake up, Matahachi wants Takuzo to get drunk with him, and Takuzo wants to leave. Matahachi wants them to thank the girls who rescued them. The girls who rescued them want them to marry them. Takuzo and one of the girls are picking wild plants. The girls wish Takuzo was more curious about them, so he's like, "Fine, how old are you?" He thinks she looks young. She thinks he looks old. He asks what the two girls were doing in a field of corpses. Turns out they're thieves and they steal weapons and armor off dead soldiers, which is cool, I guess. Any other questions? Who's that? Oh, that's the guy who killed my father. Okay, it starts off kinda corny, shonen if you will at times, but I promise it gets good. It took me a few tries to get into the story, but look up anything about it and do you see how infinite you are? You've become kinder. You're getting stronger, I see. All truly strong people are kind. I promise this shit cooks. The guy who killed her dad tells him to stop robbing battlefields. He runs a gang, so I guess that's their racket. The girls show the boys their swords, and Takuzo picks up a wooden sparring sword and likes it. The girls offer it to him and he accepts. Everyone's drinking, even Takuzo after some prodding. They're gonna go home soon and the girls don't want the boys to leave. Matahachi reports that he has a fiancée back home because he's a stud. Takuzo passes out drunk because he's a lightweight. He thinks about his father, who's kind of a dick. He tells Takuzo he's got the eyes of a beast. He wakes up to one of the girls coming onto him, but Takuzo isn't having any of it. He can't lose his virginity because he's a Sigma male and he never loses at anything. The gang comes back. They want to search their house. Dude propositions one of the girls. She roasts him. They find the other girl and... Yep, but don't worry, this isn't Berserk. The guy's about to enter the room with Oko in it, but Takuzo and Matahachi are ready to ambush him, but he senses them and punches Matahachi through the wall. Takuzo and the gang leader scrap. The gang leader grabs Takuzo's face, and Takuzo bites a chunk out of his hand and spits it at him. Again, Black Air Forces. After that, he clocks him with his sword. Takuzo tells him that he's glad that he left his hometown of Miyamoto. The gang leader might be a brigand, but he's still a general, and he'll have his head. Matahachi charges into the other room and starts cutting motherfuckers up. Don't get used to it, it's all downhill from here, and the brigand leader takes off running. Takuzo chases him and calls him a coward. The gang leader says he's never seen somebody with eyes like Takuzo, like a devil or a beast. Takuzo chases him and beats him to death. Matahachi and Takuzo regroup and have another little shonen moment. Matahachi and Takuzo will take on anyone. As they walk off hugging each other, Oko says, "They're like kids, playing a game of blood," which is a panel I kinda like. They announce they'll be going their separate ways soon. Matahachi can't sleep thinking about how much of a big man he is for killing those four dudes. He decides he's gonna pay Oko a visit. Don't do this. This only works after you saved a girl's life in the 1600s, and even then it was a bold move. Oko's just a hoe. Oko asks, "Which one are you?" Matahachi freaks out. I've probably skipped enough to where it's not super obvious, but the girls subtly prefer Takuzo to Matahachi. Matahachi answers, "It's me, Takuzo," to which Oko laughs and calls him a bad boy. "I thought you had a fiance." She knows it's Matahachi and she's down anyway. The next day, they're washing their clothes, getting ready to go home, and the rest of the brigands come back sweet Jesus. Takuzo and Matahachi come up with a plan to go back to the house and protect Oko. Takuzo says he's left home knowing he's not going back, and he's a vagabond now. The other girl wants to go with him. Takuzo runs back to the house. Matahachi tries to follow, but he can't keep up. Matahachi gets there after everyone's inside, sees all the horses, and is scared of how many people could be inside. On top of that, he forgot his sword. Meanwhile, Takuzo is just standing in a crowd of enemies unarmed, looking for Oko. They berate him and attack him, but he fights them off while Matahachi has a crisis outside, feeling inferior to Takuzo. He decides he'll go in on the count of three, but on three, Oko finds him. She reveals that she snuck outside before the brigands got there because she had a bad feeling, and for some reason she really wants to fuck right now. What about Takuzo, he says. What about him, he decides, and decides that instead of fighting alongside his childhood best friend, who's unarmed in close quarters with multiple armed attackers, he's gonna chill 100 feet away in the bushes, having sex with some hoe he just met, which, if you ask me, is certified bitch-ass behavior. Well, Takuzo's doing fine, cutting people down left and right. He runs outside and finds Matahachi's comb, I think, or some kind of evidence of what happened, and he expresses his disappointment. Takuzo returns to Miyamoto Village to tell Matahachi's grandma that Matahachi's still alive. She's a bitch. It's been almost a year since they left. Some guards are after Takuzo for killing a couple of their men and breaking through some security checkpoint. There's a whole search party after Takuzo since he's been reported in the area. They talk about how strong he is, mentioning that he won his first duel at the age of 13 against a martial artist, which is true, by the way. The real Musashi did that. Apparently, Takuzo killed another guard, and then he jump scares Otsu, Matahachi's fiancée. She's important. This is her first time showing up, but yeah, she's pretty important. Matahachi's grandma is also kind of important too, but not really. They mention they aren't going to be able to capture Takuzo because he spent his childhood in the mountains. He's a beast who will feed on rabbits or birds or even tree bark. Once a beast escapes into the mountains, he's out of human reach. Takuzo's chilling in the mountains and he sees a farmer coming down a path. He jumps out and tells him, "Matahachi's still alive. Relay that information to his grandma and Otsu. Tell them that and I'll leave." Then he breaks his stick backpack thing. Then he sees some villagers coming and he covers the guy's mouth, asks him a few questions. Then he punches him in the face and tells him that he's counting on him. Takuzo went to the Chris Brown School of Communication. Otsu and the granny talk. She's a bitch to her, acts like marrying into her family is a huge deal. Takuzo goes to the granny himself and tells her that Matahachi's alive. The captain in charge of catching Takuzo tells Otsu that Matahachi's dead and tries kissing her, to which she kicks the hell out of him and says that she's Matahachi's fiancée. Granny pulls a knife on Takuzo, but this is like me trying to score a layup on Shaq. He disarms her with ease. She cries as the news sinks in that Matahachi's alive, but she's still very mad at Takuzo. He tells her that he's living in a different province with a woman. Otsu gets the same news and is pretty bummed out. Granny calms down and gives Takuzo some of Matahachi's clothing, offers him a bath and to make him some food. He must be tired from all that time in the mountains, and he is her beloved grandson's friend. I'm realizing now that I'm recording this that it's not actually his grandma, it's his adopted mother, but I'm not going to change anything. I'm still going to call her Granny. She asks what his plans are now, and he says that he's going to go train in the way of the warrior, travel the country and challenge renowned swordsmen like the Yagyu and the Yoshioka. A group of soldiers are outside, and oh, imagine that, this was all a trap. Takuzo busts out the front door butt-ass naked with his sparring sword and starts knocking fools out. And so ends Chapter 10, and so ends Volume 1, and so would end this video, but I decided to include Volume 2. I mentioned before, I feel like Volume 1 isn't the best representation of Vagabond. It's not by any means bad, but it's only after Volume 2 that I knew I was going to read it in its entirety, and if you finish Volume 3 and you still aren't into it, personally I think you can pretty safely put it down. So this first video is going to be a 2-in-1, and if I do make more videos after this, it'll probably be one volume at a time. Otsu rips up the letter saying that Matahachi is with Oko and this guy tries to comfort her and she bangs this bell a ton. Musashi's knocking people out left and right and he runs inside. They try to corner him, he puts on a robe and is back in the fight. Such a reckless resistance. He's fearless. For the sake of his own survival, he'll take lives without a second thought. He's merciless. Such power. He's so strong. The dude saying all this talks about how he's going to get tired eventually and he can't wait to see the look on his face when he realizes that his life's coming to an end. Then Takuzo cracks him over the head. He keeps fighting, there's a pretty cool panel, and they say, "He's a demon. Don't you hold any value for human life? You're a disgrace. Die, you animal, you demon. Demon, I'm getting the chills. Look at his eyes." To which Takuzo thinks, "Demon. I like the sound of it." Takuzo runs off and trips over a stick. "You fell for it. Haha. There's some guy out here, a monk. Is it a deer? Or a boar? Whatever it is, it's really big, but it has a small heart." He taunts him, says that he has the heart the size of a cat. Takuzo asks his name and he asks why a beast would want to know his name. "I'll kill you even if you are a monk. Are you frightened? You'd cut me down if I were to even touch you. You keep your nerves on edge and you're always ready to lash out. You distance yourself from everyone. It's because you're afraid of people. You are the weakest person in this village." This right here is why I didn't stop at Volume 1. We're finally getting into what makes Vagabond so good. The soldiers come, Takuzo runs off, they ask the monk which way he went, and the monk gives him the wrong direction. Takuzo tells him that he doesn't need his help, those people can't catch him, and he doesn't owe him a damn thing. The monk calls out to them and gives them Takuzo's real location and laughs. This guy's important. The guy Takuzo bonked is still alive. He's the captain of the soldiers and he worries that he's going to need to commit seppuku if he doesn't catch Takuzo soon. Otsu's also been avoiding him since he tried kissing her, despite his really cool mustache. Takuan, the monk, talks to Otsu and learns that Takuzo, Otsu, and Matahachi were childhood friends. Takuan asks the captain how a fool who drinks all day is going to capture Takuzo. He calls him incompetent, and the captain threatens to cut him down. He asks if an incompetent captain is even capable of cutting him down. I told you that he's important, but I forgot to mention he's the GOAT. Takuzo's getting hungry, he's laying down, reflecting on everything. He doesn't care what the villagers or the monk think of him. He just wanted to tell Otsu that Matahachi's alive and he's accomplished his mission. That's when a dude jumps out of a tree and tries to stab him in the fucking face. He's not part of the manhunt. "So, you're the one who killed my brother," he says. There's a small cut on Takuzo's face. The attacker's in full mount, but Takuzo manages to stab something into his thigh and they separate. Takuzo thinks that he's here to avenge his brother and says, "I don't know who you are, but I'm ready to run that fucking fade." They clash, the attacker cuts Musashi's arm and they separate. "Give it up, Takuzo. No one's gonna mourn the death of a person like you," which, that's some cold-blooded shit to say. He also reveals that he's not trying to avenge his brother, he wanted to be the one who killed him himself. Takuzo laughs and says, "Sibling rivalry? I was born into this world, and maybe I'll live to see 20 years or so, then I'll die. That's all there is for both you and me." And there's some pretty cool artwork here as well. You can see why I didn't stop at Volume 1, right? The soldiers find them fighting and notice that Takuzo's injured. The attacker bounces up into a tree and the soldiers surround Takuzo. "I was born into this world and I've lived 17 years, and for what purpose?" Takuzo starts tearing shit up again, cut to the next chapter, and he's killed all of them. "What does the future hold in store for me? I don't care. I'm hated, hunted down. I kill and kill over and over again, and in the end, I'll be cut down too. That's all there is." Takuan's still taunting the captain. He gets the captain to swing his sword. He lets it hit him, but it glances off and sticks into the floor. He starts laughing and tells him that he needs to put his hips into it or he'll only cut skin. Takuan makes a plan for himself and Otsu to go to the mountains and capture Takuzo. They go off to the mountains and they come across these dead soldiers. Otsu's shocked that Takuzo could do this. They're eating and Takuan asks what Otsu liked about Matahachi. She says that even when they were kids, Takuzo never got along with anyone. She remembers the time that a guy came to the village wanting to challenge the strongest man in Miyamoto to a duel, and 13-year-old Takuzo declared himself the strongest. Takuzo killed the dude, and the way it's depicted, it wasn't exactly necessary. He'd already won, and he took the guy's knife and stabbed him. After that, no one wanted to be around Takuzo even more, all except Matahachi. That's what she liked about him, the fact that he kept being friends with Takuzo after he murdered that dude in cold blood. Takuan says this is very peculiar, which, yeah, it kinda is. Takuan rips ass and Otsu's grossed out. He laughs and says it must be all the beans in the stew. After all, they're only human. Right, Takuzo? Takuzo's here. He's worn out and he can barely stand. We know this because Takuan says so. He wonders why Otsu's here, and flashbacks of all the hate that he's felt play in his head. He wonders if she's like the others. Otsu just wants to know who Oko is. She hugs Takuzo and trauma dumps on him, and then he passes out. Takuan ties Takuzo up in a tree. He begs to be killed. Kill or be killed. Cut people down and die by mortal combat. That's who I am. I've always been willing to pay the consequences. Otsu really wants to go to talk to Takuzo. She feels like she tricked him. Takuan says she can't or she'll want to free him, and that Takuzo doesn't feel like she tricked him. The grandma is a bitch. She says that she can't wait to watch him die up there. Time passes and she's still talking that shit, saying that she thought he'd be dead by then. Takuzo's reflecting on life. He only ever wanted to become stronger, so that he wouldn't have to depend on anyone. He wanted to become invincible under the sun. Otsu snuck out bread or a potato or something. She puts it on the end of a stick and tries feeding it to Takuzo, but he's just wondering why she's bothering him. She accidentally bonks him on the head and the potato falls. Granny talks to Otsu, calls her her daughter-in-law, tells her that she has to join the Hoinden family, but she says that she can't because she hates Matahachi for betraying her. Granny starts bonking her and calls her a stray cat till Takuan steps in. Takuzo's still in the tree. The monk comes out and Takuzo flies into a rage, screaming, ordering him to kill him. The monk taunts him, but Takuzo just wants to die a warrior's death. He asks what there is besides darkness. Otsu comes back and... Oh, it's rice. Okay, puts another rice ball on the end of a stick and tells him to keep his mouth open. They can get it this time. She can get it up there, but he needs to make an effort to receive it. She ends up just smudging it against his face. They'll get it tomorrow, she says. Kinda a cute moment. Kinda symbolic now that I think about it. The next day, crows surround Takuzo. Takuan says that their cause are telling Takuzo to die. He mocks him for wanting a warrior's death and calls it selfish. Each and every person you killed has his own life. Whether that life was blessed or not, they all grew up. Some had families, some were alone, some were engaged, some had kids, had pets, others had dreams, and others had no ambitions at all, and you ended everything for them. All Takuzo can think amidst this lecture is invincible under the sun. He continues condemning him for his selfishness, and it starts to rain. The heavens won't allow you a parched death under the sun. He drinks the rain as it runs down his face and thinks, invincible, to have no equal among men, to be the strongest. He flashes back to his father saying, You too? Pick up that sword then if you think you can cut me down. Kid Takuzo says that that's not what he said, but his father says that only one man can be invincible, and since he carries his father's blood, Takuzo will undoubtedly become strong and become a threat to him. Maybe he should just kill him now. He swings the sword at him but stops it short. He didn't even flinch. No wonder they call him Demon Child. That random-ass dude who fought Musashi in the woods for killing his brother shows up and wonders how he's still alive. His name is Sujikazi, by the way. Drenched by rain, scorched by the sun, piss dried up on his leg, and yet you're still alive, as though you have some higher purpose. If heaven and hell really do exist, then a murderer like himself is surely going to hell, Sujikazi says. and if they're both going to the same place, he'll send him off in a glorious crimson death. He cuts Takuzo free. Before he can kill him, he sees Takuan behind him, and he disappears into the trees. He cut me down with his mind. Who the hell was that? He defeated me. Granny comes back and sees Takuzo's gone and flips her shit. Where's Takuan? Is Takuzo dead? Did he die? No way he died. Did he escape? A monk tells her that he died. She makes this face, which I think is kind of funny. The monk says the rope broke, Takuzo fell and smashed his head. Granny doesn't believe him and says, all according to Takuan's script. Takuan's carrying Takuzo and says he's heavy. He says he'll let him choose the place that he dies. From here, we move on to the last chapter of Volume 2, which is one of my favorite chapters of the whole manga. So much so, I've already made a video doing a panel-by-panel read-through of it, which I guess I'll just play now. An infamous samurai is captured by a monk who allows him to choose the place he'll be killed. So this is where your life will end, Takuzo. You've chosen well. There's a good view of Miyamoto village from here. He carries on about the spot that he picked out to die, and the samurai just asks to be killed. The monk taunts him, but he just repeats himself, asking to be killed. Is that your desire? He asks. What else would I want? He replies. A dark shadow runs across your face, Takuzo. Your eyes are so dark, lonely, and in pain. You've cut down so many, and in the end you'll be cut down too. That's what you want? The samurai agrees. That's right. And the monk continues taunting him. Then you've lived your life to the fullest. Why aren't you smiling? You should rejoice. You're gonna die now. He hits him. Announce yourself to the world. He hits him again. Be full of pride. He begins yelling proudly, mocking the samurai. I cut down everyone around me, and now I'll be cut down by this damn monk spouting gibberish. I lived my life the way I wanted to. This is my life, my wonderful life. It's been so fulfilling. He orders him to say it. The samurai continues to beg to be killed. The monk hits him again. Say it. You're dead. You're dead. He says between punches as images of his past pop up. You're dead. He tells him that if he's satisfied with his life, to announce it to the world. The samurai asks, You call yourself a monk? To which he replies, No, I'm a damn fool of a monk. The samurai struggles to his feet despite his binds and walks over to a boulder and slams his head against it, asking, Why was I born? If only to be abandoned and shunned, to be feared and hated and despised by all. Let me die. I'm the son of a demon and I deserve to die. Why was I even born? He reels back to slam his head again, but he's stopped by the monk, who says, Will you throw your life away, Takuzo? Will you throw everything away, even the person you used to be? He questions if the life he's chosen for himself is truly worth it and honorable before telling him that life is not for you. The monk holds him, and Takuzo cries. Is it true? Do I really deserve to live? He cuts him free and says, There is no brightness for those who do not know darkness. Live on and endure the shadows, and brightness shall come your way. And so ends chapter 2. At the start of the next chapter, Takuzo is renamed to Musashi Miyamoto and starts a new life. Still killing people, but as a martial artist rather than a wild man beast. We also skip, I think, 4 years, so this is a definitive end to the Takuzo arc and a good place to stop. It's the start of a crazy ride and some of the best character development I've seen in any work of fiction. I'm rereading this for the first time to make these videos, and I have to say, Takuzo here is completely unrecognizable from the character we finished the story with, and yet you can barely feel him change throughout. His development is just so gradual and realistic. I expressed earlier I feel like Vagabond starts out somewhat weak. We're just over 5% done with the story, so if you aren't hooked yet, just know that you've barely gotten a taste of how beautiful and philosophical this dumb samurai story can get. All this said, we need to bring it in for a minute here, gang. This is by far the highest effort video I've created. If I had to guess, I'd say that this video took me 10, 15 hours to create, and I don't mind. I enjoyed making it, and I want to bring new eyes onto probably my favorite work of fiction ever, but I can't afford to go through the whole story as a passion project. I made the chapter 21 video and then released a 2-minute clip from a podcast that I bit right after that. The high effort read through got 400 views, the podcast clip got 250,000. If I were a rational actor, I would just do that, but I wanted to make this. If you want to support me making this series, please subscribe, like, comment, and pass this video around. I'm also going to link a Patreon I'm making for this channel and more specifically this series in the comments and description. If this video blows up, or if a small number of people really enjoy it enough to support it financially, I'll continue making them. I'll probably at the very least make a Volume 3 video because again, I feel like at that point you see enough of what Vagabond can be that these videos will at least serve as a starting point to get people invested in the series, and I'll have given a little something to the work of fiction that's given something to me. For free, because I read this shit on the internet. And with that, truly, thank you for watching, and until next time, think only about your art.